Hey guys, Alpha Seagull here. Remember the times where you could just pump out like 5,000 damage with a single cast of Sword of Night and Flame? Those times are back, baby. There's a fun new glitch going around called tumble buffing. It's basically a way to apply almost any weapon buff to any weapon. The way it works is by using a skill and removing your weapon at the same time, forcing it to use that skill on another weapon regardless if it's supposed to or not. This generally works for almost any skill in the game, though many of them have wonky results, broken animations, and or don't do anything useful. However, this is really useful for skills that give you a weapon buff like Seppuku or Royal Knight's Resolve, letting you combine certain buffs with certain weapon skills that aren't really balanced around having them. A YouTuber named Leviathan made a video going into detail about it, and I definitely recommend checking his video out in the description below. But here's the basics on how to use it. Have the weapon with the buff skill on your left hand, and the weapon you want to apply the buff to on your right. Two-hand left weapon, eat any bolus item, and near the end of the animation about here or so, hold L2, which buffers your weapon skill. Then you want to go into your equipment menu really fast and spam unequipped on your left-hand weapon. It's like a 2-frame window on the unequipped part, so it's pretty precise, but luckily you can just mash the button so it's not as hard as it sounds. If your timing was off, you might not unequip the weapon, or maybe you did unequip it, but it won't use a skill, or maybe it'll use a skill, but it'll be the wrong one. However, if everything's right, you should end up using the buff skill with the right hand weapon and apply the buff. This still works even in 1.05, but hopefully will get patched in the next update. There's lots of great combinations you can use with this, but one of my favorites is Seppuku mixed with Sword of Night and Flame. See, the Seppuku buff applies to every single instance of damage done by the skill, meaning it's going to perform better on skills that hit several times. Even projectiles still receive the buffs of the weapon, meaning every tick of damage from that laser attack receives the bleed buildup from Seppuku. Without any arcane scaling, Seppuku gives about 84 extra bleed buildup, which means this laser usually gets almost 600 total bleed buildup. Or at least it should, but I have a theory that the point-blank hitbox from the sword counts separately from the laser hitbox even though the damage happens at the same time, meaning you're actually getting double the hits, therefore double the buildup. Because frankly, you get a lot more than 600 bleed from this. As you can see, I'm getting multiple bleed procs here, which shouldn't be possible with only 7 hits. Keep in mind here that without the buff, this skill only does about 2,000 damage, and that one buff increased it to over 5,000. There's some pros and cons to using Sword of Night and Flame this way. The pros are that the damage is based on bleed, meaning it scales on HP so you don't need any other buffs. It also gets better for tankier bosses and scales for higher new games. The cons are that since it's based on bleed, adding more buffs barely make any difference. And since bosses gain resistance to statuses the more you inflict them, you'll eventually get to a point where it no longer deals a lot of damage. This also goes without saying, but the boss must be weak to bleed in order for this to work. You can't do this on Elden Beast or something. So overall, it's really cool if you don't want to buff yourself more than once, but there's many ways to get much higher damage output. Still really cool though, it reminds me of how good it was before the nerf. That's about it for this video, guys. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe, comment down below. YouTube words, analytics, only a small percentage of people actually give a crap what this image says, you know the drill. Bye-bye.